Astros GM Dana Brown and manager Joe Espada will remain in their roles for 2026. I know Brian McTaggart of MLB.com was first with that news. Brown and Espada will continue on their current contracts, which run through next season and then expire after the year, which means a lot of people are wondering, okay, well, are they going to be here long term? But at the very least, they are getting a lame duck season next year that could involve an extension at some point. Brown didn't comment on his contract status in what Rome describes as an awkward end-of-season media availability last week. Joe Espada didn't talk about that as well. I think it would be completely unfair to pin the blame for the lack of success relative to years past for the Astros on either Brown or Espada. You can maybe make the argument, okay, somebody else needs to be in here other than Espada because maybe things are getting a little bit stale here. But I think Espada did the most he possibly could given all the injuries the Astros dealt with. And I would say with Dana Brown, considering all the injuries the Astros dealt with, the amount of guys that he was bringing up from the minor leagues that were actually doing well for the Astros upon arrival in the majors, despite zero expectations, from Zach Short to AJ Bluebaugh and some others. I don't see how you could look at either of those two and say, these guys fucking suck. They got to be gone. I know a lot of Astros fans feel that way, and maybe you just want to head on a spike, on a pike. I don't know what it is. I think it's crazy to blame it on those two guys. The guys who need to be gone are the Astros hitting coaches. The Astros were not nearly patient enough at the plate this past season. The metrics show it. They were one of the most impatient teams in the league, despite telling everybody that they were going to be more patient at the plate this year. And then sending that memo out to the entirety of the clubhouse. And you could say, okay, well, Joe Espada's got to be on the Astros to be more patient at the plate. Sure, that's a fair criticism to hold against Espada, but the hitting coaches who have been here for a while didn't seem to pay attention to that. I suppose when it comes to Jose Altuve, you always want him to be aggressive, but we might be entering a chapter of Jose Altuve's career where he needs to be a little more patient at the plate. Yainer Diaz needs to be more patient. I suppose Jeremy Pena, the season that he just had, the career year he just had, maybe doesn't listen to what the Astros are telling him, especially as he's looking for that contract now that he's got Boris aboard. But there were a lot of impatient batters for the Astros this past season. The hitting coach has got to go. Going into next year without any changes, I find that hard to believe, just given how Jim Crane's constantly talking about the window always being open. How would the fan base believe that if you're going into next year and there's no changes at all? Medical staff, training staff, gotta go. I don't give a shit what was going on behind the scenes, and if I'm not a learned doctor, like, they were fucking awful last year. Awful. Their return to play policy is one of the worst I've seen in sports history. And like, how you fuck up by not giving imaging to Yordan Alvarez, what was a muscle strain that turned out to be a fracture, a year after something similar happened with Kyle Tucker, just boggles my mind. Really does. So Joe Espada's back. Dana Brown's back. We'll talk to Chandler Rome about it later in the week.